I want to talk about forms of dialogue. I don't mean the different various ways we might have a dialectic with each other. I mean what what we need to have before someone else would take what you actually are saying seriously. For example, let's say I wore a suit and tie when I did these rants here. Right now I'd be sitting upright and erect. I'd have proper lighting on my face. I'd have, my hair perfectly done. I wouldn't have bags under my eyes. I know this stuff. I'm a photographer. And then I would sit there and I would be like, and I could speak with a perfect dialect. And you'd all be listening and I could speak with all the right words. But let's say I said exactly the same things I'm saying here. Well, some people won't take what I say here seriously based simply upon how I appear. And I know that. And I'm actually counting on it in some ways because that means anyone who actually listens to me is listening to what I'm saying rather than how I look. Plus, I'm very comfortable this way. I focus on the content, you see. But anyway, other people say, well, I can't take him seriously because he's not in a suit and tie. And then other people who are actually listening to what I said might say, I can't take him seriously because he's saying all this anti-establishment stuff and he's wearing a suit and tie. That's what I mean. Let's say I said something really philosophically deep and everyone around me would go around like, you can't really trust what he says because he doesn't have a PhD in philosophy. And then, a scientist can make, an esteemed scientist can make a comment about global warming and climate change, and they'll say, we can't listen to him because no one really knows that there's global warming, even though he's has a degree and he's a scientist, and they don't believe him. So, it's very difficult. Like, what are the forms? I mean, do we have to all look like President Obama when we want to say something constructive or critical? Is that what it is? I remember one time I was saying something in college to a friend of mine named Simon, he was from Europe and he thought he was part of the nobility. And he also thought of himself as a philosopher. And, we were talking, and I was talking about something, I was getting really passionate, and I can't believe that anyone in their right mind would think, and he said, David, I can't take you seriously when you're like this. I can't listen to you when you're like this. And so I said, Simon, I'm saying exactly the same things I would say if I was calm. And well, I can't take you seriously when you say it like this. I said, if the words are the same and the message is the same, why wouldn't you take it any more or less seriously than any other time? In fact, aren't there some things we can't be calm about? If we're going to say, like one of my philosophy professors wanted to say, that some things just aren't forgivable, then how can we react to some things and not be upset? I mean, how can you look upon certain passionate things or certain moral things and just not be upset and discuss it calmly and objectively and, diplomatically and properly, not ruffle any social feathers or any decorum with proper decorum? How can you talk about certain things with proper decorum? How? Are you inhuman? You have no feelings? Is it just that detached from you? Are you rich enough that this doesn't bother you? But does hurricane damage doesn't affront you because you know you're going to your nice, safe, warm mansion after the plane ride? I mean, when is it like, oh, I can't, like, you see to me, you would just trust someone more if they weren't passionate about what they were talking about. Well, what does he really want? What is she really trying to do? But no, they decided that if you're passionate about something, I can't possibly listen to you. You're too passionate about this. You're too angry. You're angry about this. Well, then you're not seeing it clearly. I can't talk to you. Well, if I'm saying things that make sense, then obviously I may be angry, but it's not interfering with what I'm saying. In fact, you would think it would add to the authority and authenticity of what I'm saying. But it doesn't seem to because it's not in the proper form. And that what brings me to the next point, that I often think that the proper form is just either a way to not have to deal with the content, basically. I mean, rather than saying that form and content are just, beautifully and inextricably, bound together, we've now taken the form and if we want to, we'll use the form to disregard the content, or if we want to disregard the content, we'll focus solely on the form. Or, whatever you want, but you get the idea. And it's sort of like, what would be the proper form for me to talk to you about what I'm talking about? What would be the proper form? Where would be the appropriate form that I could say the things I say, and it would be greeted as constructive criticism, as provoking thought, and at the same time not be dangerous to the bunnies, not be dangerous and an affront to our sensibilities, the very sensibilities that of course I'm trying to question, that I have to question in order to try to raise some sort of social conscience in you people. And of course, my very act of trying to do that is causing you to turn around and say I don't have a social conscience. You see, that's the tough life of the rebel, man.